Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to Deep Dive, where we slice through complex ideas, extract the most potent insights, and bring them directly to you. Today we're plunging into a framework that, well, for many, it fundamentally reshapes our understanding of ourselves. We're talking about Dr. Michael Lukens' physics of emotioning theory. We've been immersed in a truly fascinating collection of material from Dr. Lukens himself, a distinguished clinical psychologist, author, and just a profound thinker in the realm of human motivation. And his work isn't just theory. It promises to redefine how we perceive the very engine of our actions and feelings. So our mission for you as we navigate this material is to provide a concise yet comprehensive pathway to understanding this powerful framework. We want to extract the core concepts that can truly shift your perspective on yourself, your relationships, and, well, the world around you. Prepare for some significant aha moments that move beyond mere labels to reveal underlying mechanics.
Absolutely. And what's truly groundbreaking here is that Dr. Lukens isn't simply introducing a new set of terms or, a novel way to categorize our internal states. He's presenting a cohesive, integrated system, a whole theoretical framework for human motivation and experience. And he argues it can be woven into every facet of our lives, from personal relationships right up to global dynamics. This isn't just another perspective. It's really a unique understanding that stands in thoughtful contrast to many prevailing models of human behavior. So yeah, over the course of this deep dive, we're going to systematically explore several interconnected ideas that illuminate how our internal world actually operates. Hopefully this helps you move beyond common misconceptions about feelings and actions into a much more profound understanding of their underlying physics.
Okay, so right out of the gate, Dr. Lukens invites us to consider the foundational elements of our emotional lives. He's identified what he calls the atomic emotion elements, also known within his physics of emotion model, the PoE model as the 9 basic emotions. And these aren't just broad categories. He presents them as the fundamental, irreducible components, the building blocks from which all our more complex emotional experiences are, well, built. The 9 he identifies are fear, anger, sadness, disgust, guilt, shame, interest, desire, and joy. Now, that's a very specific list. We all experience such a vast spectrum of feelings, right? From awe to nostalgia, irritation to serenity. So what makes these 9 in particular the foundational, the atomic elements in his framework? It feels like a very deliberate choice to narrow it down like that.
That's a crucial question, and it really speaks to the precision of the PoE model. When Dr. Lukens calls these atomic building blocks, he's making a very clear parallel. Think of the elements on the periodic table in chemistry. They're the fundamental constituents, right? The irreducible units from which every more complex thing is formed. You can't break fear down into smaller, distinct emotional components. It is in itself a primary, standalone energetic force. That's the idea. Now, while the source material we're working with doesn't explicitly detail the exact methodology he used to select these specific 9 over, say, others that might appear in different psychological theories.
Right, like surprise or contempt, maybe.
Exactly. But it unequivocally establishes these 9 as the foundational set for his entire system. They are the starting points for understanding all emotional processes within this model. We can kind of infer some criteria, though, that might make these 9 uniquely atomic in his view. Perhaps it's their distinct evolutionary purpose. Each one, you could argue, serves as a primary driver for immediate, maybe survival-oriented action.
Like fear makes you run, anger makes you fight.
Precisely. Interest drives exploration. They aren't merely reactions, but forces with inherent motivational energy. And also, they seem to possess distinct physiological markers and, importantly, universal expressions across cultures. That suggests a kind of hardwired fundamental nature that would set them apart from more blended or nuanced feelings like, say, melancholy or exasperation, which in this model might be seen as combinations of these atomic elements.
Okay, so recognizing these specific forces within yourself is the first step.
It's the first vital step to truly navigating your inner world. For anyone looking to gain mastery over their emotional landscape, understanding these atomic elements is absolutely crucial. It's about being able to identify with precision which of these core elements are active within you at any given moment. Are you feeling pure sadness, or is there maybe a layer of shame underneath it? Is it really anger, or is the anger actually a defense against some underlying fear?
That makes sense. You need to know what you're working with.
Exactly. This foundational recognition is what then lays the groundwork for what Dr. Lukens calls core issue completion work. Because if
Mhm.
you can't accurately identify the specific element you're experiencing, it becomes incredibly difficult to move through it, to address its underlying purpose, or to resolve it effectively. So this isn't just about sticking labels on things, it's about understanding the core energetic forces at play within you and their inherent purpose.
Okay, so once we have these fundamental building blocks, these 9 basic emotions, the natural and I think immensely practical next question is, how do they work? Do they just appear, hang around, and eventually fade? Or is there a more predictable, structured process to how they unfold and resolve? Dr. Lukens doesn't leave us guessing. He suggests that emotional responses aren't random, chaotic events at all. Quite the opposite. He says they follow a highly predictable course, almost like like an electrical circuit. He outlines 3 distinct stages for every emotional experience. First, there's the triggering or activation stage. That's the initial spark, right? The moment something external or internal, a thought or an event, sets an emotional process in motion. It's the sensory input, the perception of a situation. Then it moves into the goal-oriented action or response stage. This is where we react internally or externally appropriately to the meaning involved in that trigger. The emotion itself is presented as a drive supporting specific goals. It's not just a feeling, it's a motivation pushing us somewhere. So, for instance, fear's goal is safety, anger's goal might be to remove an obstruction, and joy's goal could be to fully experience and sustain a positive connection. And finally, the third stage, which seems so critical for understanding resolution, is completion or termination. This is when the emotional circuit closes. It happens when the goal that the emotion was driving has been achieved or genuinely relinquished. The source gives some wonderful, simple analogies for this. You don't stay curious once your interest has been satisfied.
Right.
And you don't stay frightened once you're fully safe. It's such a clear, almost elegant way of looking at emotional mechanics.
It really is an elegant model. And to deepen our understanding of completion, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's far more profound than just an emotion fading away. It's not just dissipating on its own because of distraction or time. It's the explicit closing of an emotioning circuit. It's an active internal process. It's about reaching the end point of the meaningful goals that the emotion initially propelled you towards. And Dr. Lukens explicitly links this idea to closure from Gestalt theory.
Ah, Gestalt. Okay.
Yeah. For those maybe less familiar, Gestalt therapy emphasizes perceiving things as complete wholes and resolving unfinished business. Lukens applies this concept directly to emotional experience. He argues that an uncompleted emotion creates an open loop in our psyche. It creates a kind of cognitive and energetic dissonance, a persistent tension that demands resolution. This unfinished business keeps drawing on our energy until the emotional figure is fully processed and integrated. So completion, then, is when the drive, the associated thoughts, and the feelings involved in pursuing that particular goal genuinely come to an end. The energy around that specific emotional experience is fully resolved. It's no longer seeking attention.
That idea of an open loop really resonates. You can feel that sometimes, can't you? Something just nagging at you.
Absolutely. And the examples from the source material illustrate this so vividly. Think about it. You stop looking once you find what you're searching for. That interest circuit closes. You stop running once you're actually safe. The fear circuit completes. You stop being angry when the fight is officially over.
Not just when you're tired of arguing.
Exactly. Not just exhaustion. It's when the underlying issue or perceived injustice has been genuinely resolved, or maybe you've truly accepted that it cannot be resolved in the way you wanted. Similarly, you stop being guilty when the breach of a love-based promise has been repaired, which implies a tangible action, right? Making amends, not merely feeling bad about it. So this isn't a passive process of just letting go. It's an active resolution, an internal rebalancing act.
Okay, the significance here for anyone navigating their own emotional landscape seems immense.
It is. This offers an incredibly powerful and actionable framework for understanding emotional resolution. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist, quite the opposite. It's about understanding their natural trajectory, their inherent purpose, and then actively working to identify when a particular circuit is open, or more importantly, when and how it can be genuinely closed. This concept explains how the 9 basic emotions we just discussed actually move through a dynamic, purposeful system, rather than simply existing in isolation. It provides the crucial dynamic aspect of the PoE model, showing how these fundamental elements interact, drive us, and ultimately resolve over time. This is really where we begin to see the actual physics in the physics of emotioning. It reveals the laws that govern our inner world.
That brings up a critical point, though. Life isn't always a straight line to completion, is it? I mean, often we find ourselves in situations where we're feeling conflicting things simultaneously, pulled in multiple directions. Dr. Lukens gives this familiar experience a very precise and powerful definition within his framework. He calls it ambivalence.
Yeah.
Now, in everyday language, ambivalence might just mean mixed feelings, right?
Yeah.
A vague sense of being unsure. But in Dr. Lukens' model, it's far more specific and active. Ambivalence means having multiple distinct goals that are simultaneously producing distinct emotioning circuits in a single context.
Yeah.
So you're not just confused. You have actively running, sometimes competing, emotional processes all happening at once. It's like an internal chorus where different parts of you are singing different, sometimes dissonant tunes. The source provides a wonderfully relatable example. Imagine considering going to a specific restaurant with friends. On one hand, you have a strong desire for a good meal and a good time. That's one emotioning circuit, maybe driven by joy and desire. But simultaneously, you might harbor a subtle fear regarding your friend's approval of your choice, maybe. Or a genuine concern about being tempted to go off a specific diet.
Right, the internal conflict.
Yeah, these are other distinct fear-based circuits. The result is the desire to go and a fear-based reluctance to go, existing at the exact same time, pulling you in different directions. Or, let's consider a more profound example, something universally experienced. How many of us respond to the prospect of deeper emotional intimacy?
Oh, yes.
Something within us powerfully draws us towards it, our interest and our desires, which creates one set of circuits, often driving us forward. But then, almost immediately, something else produces reluctance or hesitation. Our fear of rejection or fear of being hurt again, maybe even a subtle shame about past vulnerabilities, which forms another set of competing circuits. This often leads to what Dr. Lukens so insightfully terms the ambivalence dance, that familiar, frustrating pattern of taking 2 steps forward, then perhaps 2 or 3 backward, followed by 1.5 steps forward, then a half step back, and so on.
That's such a perfect description.
It perfectly illustrates those complex, often paralyzing internal tugs of war we experience, where no clear action feels entirely right because multiple active emotional circuits remain unresolved.
And the deconstruction of ambivalence is precisely where this concept elevates into a truly unique and powerfully practical component of Dr. Lukens' core issue completion therapy, his CICT modality. This isn't just about recognizing that you have mixed feelings, it's the methodical, active process of teasing out the individual strands of each of the 9 basic emotions that are simultaneously active within that ambivalent state.
So really getting specific.
Extremely specific. Instead of feeling this jumble, this sort of nebulous blob of mixed emotions, you're learning to engage in a precise internal inquiry. For instance, you might ask yourself, okay, if I tune into this knot of feelings, can I pinpoint the pure desire for connection? What's a specific fear bubbling beneath that? Is it a fear of rejection? A fear of being overwhelmed? Or maybe a fear of failure? And hang on, is there a subtle hum of shame about a past vulnerability or mistake that's making me hesitate? It's about isolating each emotional voice in that internal chorus, giving each its own distinct space and name.
And that's the deconstruction part.
That's the deconstruction. And this deep, systematic deconstruction isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's the core methodology of his core issue completion therapy, the CICT. This modality provides a structured, step-by-step approach, not only to help you identify these emotional strands, but crucially, to guide you through the specific actions and internal shifts required to genuinely achieve completion for each one. This, he argues, leads to profound and lasting emotional freedom. It moves you from feeling stuck in endless circular thoughts and inaction to actually resolving the underlying emotional drives.
Which sounds like what people are often looking for when they say they want to process things.
Exactly. Most self-help and popular psychology endlessly preach processing your emotions, but they rarely offer concrete, effective ways to actually do it. The deconstruction of ambivalence provides that crucial how. It's about disentangling the knot so you can address each string individually because, well, you can't complete what you haven't clearly identified first.
Okay, connecting that back.
Yeah, to connect this with what we've already discussed, ambivalence powerfully illustrates how multiple emotioning circuits, which, remember, each have a predictable course toward completion, can be active simultaneously within you. Each of these circuits, of course, potentially involves one or more of the 9 basic emotions we started with. Deconstruction, then, is the precise, almost surgical tool that helps us untangle these overlapping and sometimes conflicting circuits. It allows us to address each one individually, identify its specific goal, and then work towards achieving completion for each strand. So for anyone navigating complex decisions or internal conflicts, this offers a profoundly practical method. It moves beyond just being vaguely aware of complicated feelings to actively sorting, understanding, and resolving them in a way that truly leads to internal shifts. It's about transforming that feeling of being overwhelmed by your emotions into a sense of clarity, agency, and purposeful action over your inner world.
Okay, now let's turn to a concept that Dr. Lukens tackles with, well, profound originality, one that really shakes up our conventional understanding. Love. He introduces a radical redefinition here. Dr. Lukens, through his extensive work, apparently determined that love was not one of his 9 basic emotions.
Right.
Instead, he completely redefined it. He calls it committed benevolent interest, or CBI for short. So the core of CBI is actually an emotion we've already mentioned, interest. Love, in this framework, is defined as a special, highly specific form of interest. For many of us, myself included probably, this is a radical idea.
Yeah.
We've always thought of love as the supreme emotion, maybe the most powerful and encompassing feeling there is.
The big one.
Yeah. But to say it's not a basic emotion, but rather a committed benevolent interest that challenges a deeply ingrained belief, it's certainly provocative. So what does benevolent interest truly mean in this context? And why redefine something so fundamental in such a profound way, especially given its traditional emotional weight?
It is indeed a radical departure, and what's truly fascinating here is how this redefinition of love as committed benevolent interest, coupled with what Dr. Lukens describes as its biophilosophical roots, helps us understand something incredibly foundational, where a person's ground of being truly lies.
Biophilosophical roots. Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, when we talk about biophilosophical roots, we're delving into the idea that this benevolent interest isn't solely a learned cultural construct or just a fleeting emotion. It implies an inherent, perhaps even evolutionary drive towards connection, growth, and the well-being of others. Something deeply wired into our very biological and philosophical understanding of what it means to be human and to thrive within a social species. It's a recognition of a deeply embedded fundamental operating principle, not just a feeling that comes and goes.
Oh, it's ground of being. What exactly is that?
Your ground of being, then, becomes essentially where you come from before you perceive anything in the world, before conscious thought fully intervenes. Think of it like your default operating system, your inherent posture, or the lens through which you first interact with the world and its inhabitants. Is your immediate, unexamined stance generally one of openness, goodwill, and a benevolent interest in what unfolds? Or is it perhaps a more guarded, maybe subtly critical, or even at the other end, a contemptuous orientation? This deeply personal, foundational stance is what Dr. Lukens believes fundamentally shapes all subsequent interactions and emotional experiences.
Okay, I think I follow that. It's like your starting point.
Exactly, your starting point. And this foundational concept leads us directly to the love-contempt continuum. Dr. Lukens defines contempt as the polar opposite of love, its direct negation. Not just an absence of love, but its active antithesis.
Wow, okay. Not just indifference, but active negation.
Active negation. He doesn't see them as separate, unrelated states, but as two ends of a single, crucial spectrum. Applied to humanity in general, we can picture the human race, and certainly individuals within it, constantly shifting and residing somewhere along this love-contempt dimension. This continuum represents our fundamental orientation towards others. The more committed, benevolent interest CBI you have for someone, the more you inherently desire and work towards their success and well-being. That's the benevolent aspect of CBI. It's an active, invested desire for their flourishing, not just a passive good feeling about them.
And the implication for change.
The profound implication here is for societal and personal transformation. The goal, if we truly want to make the world more loving, is to consciously shift this love-contempt continuum both individually and collectively. But here's the crucial insight, Dr. Lukens argues. This process requires subtracting contempt first to recalibrate before we can effectively add love or CBI into the mix.
Subtract contempt first. Why is that order important?
Because, he suggests, you cannot effectively build a foundation of genuine benevolent interest if it's constantly undermined by an existing, perhaps unacknowledged, undercurrent of contempt. Contempt can manifest subtly in cynicism, judgment, dismissal, eye-rolling, even subtle passive aggression. It's a corrosive force. It has to be identified and actively removed before authentic CBI can truly take root and flourish. You clear the ground before you plant the seeds.
That makes a lot of sense. You can't build on shaky, contemptuous ground.
Precisely. And this concept of CBI and the love-contempt continuum fundamentally ties into human motivation, which we should probably discuss next, at an incredibly deep level. Our ground of being our default orientation on this continuum profoundly influences why we do what we do, and it impacts all our subsequent emotional circuits and interactions. It moves beyond just individual emotions to a broader, all-encompassing worldview, a fundamental stance that colors our entire experience. For anyone listening, this offers an incredibly powerful lens. You can use it to examine not only your personal relationships and your own internal default settings, but also broader societal dynamics. It really urges us to consider our foundational orientation towards others. Is it generally one of benevolent interest, that active desire for their success, or is it leaning towards its opposite?
That transition is perfect because it brings us directly to a core tenet of Dr. Lucan's entire framework,
Yeah.
human motivation. He states it so powerfully and directly that it almost takes your breath away. Emotions are why you do what you do. Simple as that.
It's blunt, isn't it?
It really is. It cuts right to the chase, stripping away all the layers of societal expectation, rationalization, even self-deception we often employ. As living systems, he says, we are always doing what we are built to do, driven by these internal emotional forces, whether we're consciously aware of them or not. But here's the paradox, and it's one we all experience daily. As observers of our own experience and reporters on the meaningful events of our lives, we almost never say what is actually so.
The gap between words and actions.
Exactly. Words, he argues, are so often used to disclaim action, to hide or obscure our true meanings and our deeper motives, rather than to acknowledge and reveal them. We rationalize, we deflect, we make excuses, or we attribute our actions to reasons that simply aren't the true emotional drivers underneath. I mean, think about how often you've heard someone say, I just wasn't motivated, when deep down it was likely fear of failure holding them back, or maybe a lack of genuine interest, or even some hidden anger.
We tell ourselves stories.
We do. So given that emotions are these fundamental drivers, how do we reconcile all this emotional pain and suffering that inevitably comes with life? We all accumulate it, right? Whether from disappointment, betrayal, simple misunderstanding. Life happens. Dr. Lukens provides a brilliant, almost visceral metaphor for it. The fuck it bucket.
Chuckles. It's memorable.
It really is. He categorizes painful and unwanted life experiences into two main funnels that contribute to this accumulation: self-esteem and grief loss. Now, he explains these aren't meant to be reductionistic, but rather to help you start your journey to completion. They provide a categorization process, a way to begin sorting through what can feel overwhelming. So these two funnels, self-esteem issues, anything that makes you feel less than, unworthy, incompetent, and grief loss, anything involving the severing of a meaningful connection, whether to a person, a dream, an expectation, they empty into what he so memorably calls the fuck it bucket. And when that bucket gets full, he warns, it leads to acting out in all its forms. It's an incredibly vivid image for the corrosive consequences of unaddressed emotional pain just building up.
It really is. And this raises an absolutely critical question. If emotions are our fundamental drivers and unresolved pain inevitably accumulates in this bucket, what exactly prevents us from achieving completion? What stops us from addressing our true motives and emptying that bucket? The answer, according to Lukens, lies in emotional resistance or defenses.
Okay.
Dr. Lukens describes these defenses as operating like a fence that we construct around ourselves. Now, this fence is designed, usually unconsciously, to keep perceived threats out, to protect us from further pain or vulnerability. Makes sense, right?
Here's protection.
But the critical insight is that while they might successfully keep the perceived bad guys out, they also paradoxically lock us in. What we really want, what we truly desire for growth and healing, often lies just on the other side of our own defensive avoidance.
So the fence keeps us safe, but also keeps us stuck.
Exactly. This creates a significant and often painful trap for us. We become stuck behind these defenses, sometimes for decades, preventing us from experiencing the world and ourselves fully. They create a profound barrier, not just to external threats, but to our own growth, our own healing, our own true desires. They prevent us from genuinely engaging with our 9 basic emotions, from fully processing ambivalence, and from achieving completion for those crucial emotional circuits. Instead of navigating the world with openness, we're essentially peeking through the slats of a fence we've built, often out of past hurt.
And what are some examples of these defenses?
Oh, the classics. Denial, rationalization, projection, blaming others for our own feelings, intellectualization, where we analyze feelings instead of feeling them, or even simply avoidance and procrastination. Each one is a way of not directly engaging with the uncomfortable emotional truth.
Okay, let's try and pull all these threads together now because it feels like
Mm.
they're all deeply connected.
They absolutely are. This is where the integrative power of Dr. Lucan's physics of emotioning truly shines. Think about it. The fuck it bucket is where deep-seated emotional pain and suffering accumulate. Crucially, it's often fueled directly by those uncompleted emotional circuits we discussed earlier, those open loops. Or it's fueled by unresolved ambivalence, where we haven't successfully teased apart and addressed the conflicting emotional strands.
So the incomplete stuff fills the bucket.
Right. When we fail to achieve completion for our fear or sadness, when we remain stuck in that ambivalent stance, that unresolved energy and pain have to go somewhere. And it often trickles directly into this metaphorical bucket. Furthermore, emotional resistance and our defenses are the very mechanisms that prevent us from engaging with our 9 basic emotions in a healthy way. They stop us from effectively processing that ambivalence and ultimately from achieving completion for those circuits. If your defenses are constantly up, you can't even truly feel the raw interest, desire, or joy that might lead you towards growth, because the whole system is too busy protecting itself from perceived threats.
And the love-contempt continuum fits in here too.
Absolutely. Our ground of being, our fundamental orientation on the love-contempt continuum, heavily influences both the nature and strength of our defenses and what ultimately fills our fuck it bucket. A more contemptuous stance, for instance, might manifest in greater defensiveness, perhaps a tendency to project blame onto others, and consequently, a quicker, fuller bucket of unresolved pain, especially from interpersonal conflict. Conversely, a foundational ground of benevolent interest might lead to fewer, more flexible defenses, perhaps a quicker path to emotional completion, and overall, a healthier, less full fuck it bucket. So, for anyone listening, this offers a profoundly insightful framework for understanding things like self-sabotage, chronic procrastination, destructive behaviors, even recurring relational patterns. It encourages a look beyond the superficial explanations for why we do what we do, urging us to consider the deeper, often hidden emotional drivers and the protective fences we've built around ourselves. It's really a powerful call to examine what truly lies on the other side of your own defensive avoidance and what impact your foundational emotional stance, that ground of being, has on your entire life experience.
We've truly taken an extensive deep dive today into Dr. Michael Lucans's physics of emotioning framework. It really is a model that provides a whole new language for our inner world. We began by identifying the foundational 9 basic emotions, those atomic building blocks of our experience: fear, anger, sadness, and the rest. From there, we explored the predictable journey to emotional completion, understanding how these emotional circuits activate, drive action, and then ideally resolve or close. We then grappled with the complexities of ambivalence, learning how its deconstruction offers a powerful, methodical pathway to clarity and resolution in our most conflicted states, that ambivalent stance. Then we moved into that radical redefinition of love as committed benevolent interest, or CBI, and a profound concept of the love-contempt continuum, challenging us to examine our fundamental orientation to ourselves and the world. And finally, we tied it all together with crucial insights into human motivation. Emotions are why you do what you do. Our defenses, that fence locking us in, and that vivid, unforgettable metaphor of the fuck it bucket, explaining where unaddressed emotional pain accumulates and how it ultimately drives our actions, often unconsciously. This framework isn't just a collection of interesting ideas, is it? It offers a truly unique, interconnected understanding of human behavior. It gives you a powerful, actionable lens through which to view your own experiences, your relationships, and the broader world around you. It moves beyond simply feeling your emotions to understanding their mechanics, their purpose, and crucially, how to navigate them towards genuine resolution.
Absolutely. If we connect all of this to the bigger picture, what Dr. Lukens provides is an extraordinarily cohesive and integrated system. That's the real power here. These concepts don't stand alone as isolated theories. They dynamically interact, they influence, they build upon one another at every single turn. Understanding the predictable course and mechanism of completion for a single emotion, for example, becomes absolutely essential when we begin to deconstruct the complexities of ambivalence, where multiple emotional circuits are simultaneously active.
Right, you need the first to do the second.
Exactly. And this careful deconstruction, in turn, allows us to address the underlying human motivation behind our defenses, those protective mechanisms that often prevent us from engaging with our raw emotions in the first place. And it directly impacts what accumulates in our fuck it bucket of unresolved pain. And permeating all of this, influencing the strength of our defenses and the very nature of our emotional responses, is our foundational ground of being our default orientation along that love-contempt continuum. It's a truly elegant, interconnected model that reveals the deep structure beneath the often chaotic surface of human experience.
So final thought for people to take away.
Yeah, here's a provocative thought for you to carry forward from this deep dive, something to truly explore in your own life. Dr. Lukings states, with compelling conviction, that to make the world more loving, we must first subtract contempt. So considering everything we've discussed, the atomic elements, the journey to completion, the deconstruction of ambivalence, the weight of the fuck it bucket, and the barrier of our defenses, how might recognizing and diligently working to complete your own emotional circuits and actively deconstructing your own patterns of ambivalence be the most direct and impactful path? The path to identifying and then systematically subtracting the contempt from your own ground of being. What fundamental internal recalibration might that create in your personal world, allowing more genuine benevolent interests, that CBI, to flourish? And how might that internal shift then reverberate outwards, contributing even in small ways to a world where connection and well-being are prioritized over judgment and dismissal? Think about that. Explore the profound possibilities this framework offers for both personal and ultimately collective transformation.